Hey guys, I've been talking, I think maybe in a couple of videos, if not just one of them, about wanting to make a video on different grinds of a knife. I think that there are a lot of good knives out there, and a lot of knives that you see other people reviewing, and blade shape is one thing, but also the grind of a blade. A lot of people I see don't really talk about or fully explain like the different grinds. I mean, you hear the three most common that you hear, and I believe to my knowledge the only ones that exist are flat ground blades, hollow ground blades, and then you have your saber grind. So basically, I just wanted to show a visual of what these grinds look like from a straight-on view of the knife. So if you were to point the tip of your knife towards you, you can look at each of your individual knives and tell which are saber ground, hollow ground, and flat ground. So I just drew really sketchy. I'm no big artist, but I just drew a sketch of what these would look like. Um, Once again, this handwriting is a bit sketchy because I had to spell everything backwards in order for my camera to pick it up forwards for you guys. Anyway, here you see the flat ground blade, hollow in the middle, and saber at the top. Flat ground blade, the grind of the knife is going to start at the very top of the blade, and it's going to from both ends work all the way down to the point. So it's fully ground from the top down to that point there, as you can see there on the paper. Um, as far as hollow ground goes, hollow ground is starts at the near the top of the blade. Sometimes it'll even start about mid spine, but instead of just going straight down, as you see on the flat grind here, it actually curves. So on hollow ground blades, they're going to be curving down to the point. And then last but not least, the Saber Grind, which Spyderco I found uses a lot on quite a few of their knives. And the Saber Ground is where you have the blade spine here that goes down about halfway, and then as soon as it hits halfway, it is flat ground to the edge. So it does not start at the very top of the spine, but about mid spine, and then it goes to a flat edge all the way down to the point. Now, these different grinds are used better for different tasks. For instance, hollow ground, I've found, as you can see there, out of the three there, it is the thinnest up to the spine. That makes for a knife that's not quite as strong, but it's definitely going to be a very good slicer. So that knife's going to slice really well. As far as flat ground blades go, flat ground blades I've found are very a bit stronger because it goes all the way up to the top, so it's got that reinforcement. Yet it's still a little bit weaker. But because it is, as you can see here, it's like a wedge. This is a good slicer, and also it'll separate whatever you're cutting a lot better. And then last but not least, the Saber Ground. This one I think is best for surface cuts. As you can see, it's got a really thick spine there because it doesn't start the actual grind until about midway. So this is a very strong knife to cut with, but the downside being it will not slice as well, and because that wedge is so thick here, it will not pry things open quite as well. So this type of grind would be better for um, probably just surface cutting. So those are the three grinds. You have your flat grind, your hollow grind in the middle there, and your saber grind. And I'm just going to go ahead and show you an example, at least try here with a few knives that I have to show you an example of what these grinds are. So starting with that flat grind edge here, in my collection at least, is the Tenacious. The Tenacious is a flat ground blade, and let's see if I can point that straight there. You can see that starting from the very top of the spine, it's going to curve from the very top all the way down in. And actually, from a side view, you can tell better. Um, by this spine right here, you can see where the knife's been grounded all the way down in. So you can see there on the side that all the way from the top, right there, that you see that line starting, and you see the discoloration there, that is the knife being ground all the way down to the point. So this knife from the very top of the spine has been ground. I use my Cinnaponnet at a point. You can see that from right here all the way down is where you can see that full flat grind. So the Tenacious is an example of full flat grind, and I found this knife slices very well and also just separates things. So if you're like trying to open a box and not just doing a surface cut, you want to split the thing, then you know flat grind is really good. Um, Brings me to the uh, also just since this is out, the Spyderco Senofonte 3. I believe this one is actually Saber Ground, and as you can see here, you can see the reflection. That's the best way you're going to be able to tell, is right here on that spine. You can see the knife goes down, and right about mid-spine, you draw it back, you can see where that grind starts, and it goes down to the edge. So that would be an example of Saber Ground. And another knife that is very apparent for Saber Ground is the Endura 4. The Endura 4, you can see big time that this is a Saber Ground blade. As you can see, the spine here goes down about midway, and you can see that reflection. That's where the grind starts. And if you tilt it, you can see there, that shelf right there, you can see it starts about mid-spine and grinds flat all the way down to the end. So that is your, this is another example of a Saber Ground blade, which I found just because it is fairly thin anyways. I mean, it's thicker at the top, of course. This is more of a surface cutter, but you know, if necessary, you can use the extra force to cut through something, you know, more solid. Example of hollow ground. I think the only knife in my collection that is hollow ground, besides possibly the Leek and also the Chive. I believe those are both hollow ground as well, but a little bit harder to show up on camera. This right here is the Kershaw Energy. This one you can tell is hollow ground. See if I can shine that there. It's kind of hard to get that curviness. You can kind of get the reflection. You can see that if you just take your fingers from both sides and you just pull down, you can feel it actually curving. Like I said, I don't know if I can get a good enough reflection here for you to see that curve. But you know, just by kind of shining it in the light, you can see that this actually curves in and then out to the knife, to the edge. So you can kind of get a sense of that, and that starts kind of towards the top of the spine, not all the way. Every knife's going to vary a little bit, and this makes for a really good slicer, a really good slicing knife. So this is, you know, very useful for any kind of like food preparation or opening small packages or boxes. So that is an example of the hollow grind. So once again, just throwing out the diagram, you got your flat grind, which has the from the very top of the blade all the way down to the tip, it is fully flat ground there. And then secondly, you got your hollow grind. That's where it's going to start at the top or a little bit lower, but it's going to actually curve in down to the point, making a very thin knife. And then you got your saber grind, which is completely straight down on the blade spine, and then about mid spine it goes into a flat grind straight down to the tip. And those are the three most common grinds that you will find on your knives, which will, you know, your typical brands such as Benchmade and Spyderco and Kershaw. I do see that Spyderco does favor the Saber grind quite a bit as far as their Endura 4 goes. I believe the Delica, also the Centofonte 3, the Tenacious, and a few others, of course, are flat ground, but the majority I found are Saber. And I believe the majority of Kershaws that I have, the Ken Onion Designs and the Lee Williams here, the Energy 2, happen to be hollow ground. And Benchmade, I'm not quite sure yet. I don't own any of their knives yet, but I'm sure they vary in those grinds as well. So yeah, it's just I've been meaning to go over this because I just haven't seen anybody talk about the actual grinds of the knife on YouTube, and hopefully this just kind of benefits you with what tasks you're doing, and just can maybe have a, you know, consider that when you're buying or purchasing your knife, or you're intending of using a knife for a certain task, you may want to think about the actual grind of the knife, because that may help you in the end as far as what tasks you want to get done. So I believe that pretty much sums it up. So you got your hollow grind, your flat grind, and your saber grind. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Zippo this, knife that.